Welcome, everybody, to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast. I'm Pete Wright, and that over there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello, Pete Wright.
Hello, Nikki Kinzer.
Hello.
How you doing? You sound a little bit like Eeyore today.
I do?
Yeah, that last little hello.
Hello. Yeah, well, my computer died.
Yeah, boy, that was sudden.
It was. It happens very quickly, people. No time to prepare. All of a sudden it just, well, I shouldn't say that I wasn't prepared, because remember I talked to you not even 2 weeks ago. Man, my computer's running slow, and you're like, yeah, it might be time for an upgrade.
Because it's been a long time.
It's been a long time, and I just really wanted it on my own terms. And then last Friday afternoon, it decided it was going to go on its terms. And I've been picking up the pieces ever since.
Oh. Well, I'm so sorry. But at least now, hey, you have a new computer.
I have a new computer, and I have followed a lot of your advice. So I knew that when it happened, that everything was going to be backed up. I didn't follow your advice on the passwords, and I kind of screwed myself on that a little bit. But I'm learning from this lesson. I'm learning.
That's the important part.
Yeah.
Lessons learned. So the password, this was about using a password manager?
Yes, using a password manager, because when your computer dies and your passwords are in your computer, it doesn't help you.
No, it does not.
No, there is no help there. So yes, I think I'm definitely going to use a password manager. And I'll tell you, I don't know about, I can only speak for myself, but the cloud storage has always been this sort of mystery to me. Like how does that work, that everything on Evernote will be saved because it's in the cloud, or like what we talked about with Dropbox and Google Docs and all of that. But I can tell you from this experience that I am no longer going to question the cloud. I love the cloud. I love that it's there.
Yeah.
And it was a lot easier after I had a chance to talk to you to get those things back. That came back to my computer instantly, whereas my backup service, I'm still dealing with trying to find documents that I know we have, but trying to get them transferred to the computer has been challenging.
Well, I'm glad and sorry to hear that.
Yes,
I'm really glad that I think one of the neatest parts of this process is that when you live in a place of sort of I don't understand the cloud, and then your whole digital life falls apart, and the first thing that comes back to you, there are things like Dropbox and Evernote, and those are sort of magically on your computer again. I love that sort of it was a crisis of faith, and now it was like now you're back, like you got back to work, and it was so fast. Like getting back to work was so fast, thanks to Google Docs and Dropbox and Evernote. So add one password to that list, and the journey to the cloud side will be complete.
Well, and I think that there are some other things I'm going to transfer over that I was maybe using Word for, that I'm just going to start, using Evernote and Google Docs. And so it just really gets you kind of thinking a different way, and it gave me an opportunity to purge, because I'm only bringing over what I want. And so a lot of stuff got, deleted and trashed. And so it's been good. It's just been really time consuming, and, it is what it is. I know people out there have gone through the same thing. It's just, it sucks.
It does. It really sucks.
So anyway, it's all good.
Well, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about dealing with an uncomfortable or a negative situation today in today's show. But before we do that, make sure you head over to Take Control ADHD, and you can learn more about the show. You can learn more about Nikki's good work and all the work that was recovered via the cloud. You can learn about that on TakeControlADHD.com. You can find Nikki at Take Control ADHD on Twitter and on Facebook. And we love to hear from you. So please write in and share your thoughts. We do have a bit of follow-up from last week's show. I should say not last week. It was the week before last, because of the implosion of the computer. We were delayed.
Yes.
But what do you want to read first?
Well, if you want to read the first comment, I can read the second one.
Well, I will read the first because she agrees with me. Friend of the show, Corinne,
Yes.
says, to echo Pete's comments, sometimes now the context of this, I should take a step back. We were talking last week about, what were 2 weeks ago? What were we talking about last week?
It was the breaking the blocks
Yes.
and crushing those fears and things like that.
That's right. And I had said something about how great it is for me to actually sit down and talk with other people, talk with colleagues and peers. That helps to break me out of that cycle. And so Corinne writes, to echo Pete's comments, sometimes what's missing in being stuck and getting unstuck is to be in communication and discuss it with someone. The act of speaking and sharing it with someone and not keeping it to oneself can provide clarity just in the speaking of it and can enable one to get another viewpoint or get assistance. Sometimes being stuck is about being stuck in one's head. The act of communicating about it puts it out there and is the first step in getting unstuck. This concept is mentioned in the Getting Things Done methodology. Thank you, Corinne. Yes, it is. And I do love that she brought that back around. So thank you so much for writing, Corinne. I absolutely agree. I think that the power of the community, I mean, again, we are communal creatures. It's how we live and exist and work. And I think sometimes we can forget that. And that's very difficult. So.
Yes, great feedback. Now, the second person that had emailed me about this show basically said, by the way, I listened to episode 193 today and it totally hit home with where I'm struggling. Hearing your struggles helped me feel less alone and gave me the confidence to push ahead, even when I felt like quitting, literally. And he goes on to some experiences that he was dealing with at his job. Tomorrow will be the first day back on the job after these realizations. I'm confident that I'll succeed knowing that you and others are right there with me. And what I loved about that comment is, that is really, I feel one of the biggest reasons why we do this show is for people to see that they're not alone, and kind of what Corinne was saying too. We need these connections to get through some of these harder times.
That is so true, and I think you're right. The reason we do this show, it's not just to listen to ourselves talk. It is because we need this community just as much as we need each other, and I think it's really, really valuable. These connections are really valuable. So. Many thanks to both of you for writing in and sharing.
Absolutely. Right. And it actually goes into today's show pretty smoothly. I feel after I look at it, I'm seeing the title. It says tips on dealing with a negative situation. I really don't mean to be negative. 2 weeks ago, it was like, gosh, feeling stuck. And here we're dealing with this negative situation. But I can see the pattern here is the stuff that's going on in my own life need to talk about, I guess. Which I just got distracted because somebody keeps texting me. Darn it. I got to put the phone off.
Hey, wait a minute. Do you want a quick tech tip?
Yeah.
I got one for you. Okay. So just press, so you're working on an iPhone.
Yes.
Okay. So hit the button once. So don't log in, right? Don't unlock it. Just hit the button once.
Okay.
And then slide up from the bottom. So the menu should appear there. You slide up from the black space onto the screen, and then a menu pops up, and there's across the top of this little menu is like an airplane, and then Wi-Fi, Bluetooth.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Hit the little moon, the little crescent moon.
The moon.
Yeah.
Do not disturb.
That's do not disturb. And then turn it off.
See, the things we learned from Pete Wright about technology.
Now, let me just tell you what will happen. Anybody on your friends list, like on your favorites in your contacts, if they call twice, the call will get through. So you can still sort of be interrupted, but the texts and all those things won't buzz. There you go. Helpful tech tip of the day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Now, let's talk about bad stuff.
Bad stuff.
Well, and I love your comment about that you don't mean to be negative, because this is all about, turning a negative situation, dealing with a negative situation by definition is doing your best to try to rationalize it or convert it into something positive or strong.
Exactly. And one of the things that it's so interesting because the very first tip that I have about how to deal with a negative situation is exactly what you talked about when you read that email from Corinne, is to talk it through with positive people.
That's an important safety tip. Don't go find a community of people who are as sad as you are.
Exactly. because it's just going to keep bringing you down. That's exactly it.
That's
and,
right.
And what I'm talking about, it can be negative situations. It can be dealing with negative people. In fact, when I first started, trying to figure out the outline for our show today, it started out with just kind of dealing with negative people. And then I thought, well, what about that negative situation? It all kind of just, I don't know, they all kind of work together, I guess. But that first thing was definitely talk to people that are positive, that aren't negative. And for me personally, I think it's important to pick the people that you need to talk to, that are going to support you, that are going to give you the validation that you need, especially if you feel wronged in some way. You want them to tell you you're right, whether you are or not. It's like for that one moment, it's like, oh man, I just want to vent and talk this through, and I can be logical later about it.
You know what it is? I learned such an amazing thing. Can I give a quick plug?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a quick plug for another show on the Rash Pixel FM network that I've fallen in love with. It's Michelle Chalfant is a dear friend and colleague, and we've started a new show. And she's a counselor, and we just had a conversation about relationships, strong relationships, and what it takes to have strong relationships. And one of the lessons that she taught me is, when you look for support from others, generally people who don't kind of understand how to support you will immediately default to cheerleader. Right? And they'll come back and they'll tell you, oh, it's okay. Everything's going to be great. You're going to be great. You're going to be strong, and you can do it. You can do it. When really,
you're a good cheerleader, Pete.
I'm an awesome cheerleader. Really, what we need first and foremost is somebody to say, I hear you.
Oh, that goes back to what we were saying a few weeks ago on that I hear you, I see you. It's so true.
Yes, I'm with you in your place of sorrow. I get it. This is hard. I'm going to reflect that, and I'm going to let it be hard with me. It's going to be hard for me too for a minute while we sit there and you explain to me what is hard about this. What is it that is so difficult? And it's a fascinating transition when you're working, when you're trying to find a way out of the dark. Really, you just need to experience the dark first. And support needs to help, reach you where you are right now. It's got to reach you and grab you by the collar where you are and pull you out of it. And a cheerleader, often just having someone screaming at the end of the tunnel saying, you can do it, isn't always the best way to help somebody. So, be supportive, but be supportive right.
Yeah. Well, and I know for me personally, especially with my anxiety, if I can pinpoint or become more aware of what it is about this situation or this person that really bothers me, it helps me deal with it better.
Yes.
I have to identify what is it that's bothering me about the situation? Is because is it because of the person I had the situation with? Is it because I'm afraid of what people are going to think? Is it because you know what I mean? It's I have to really identify what it is, I think, in order to process it and be able to move on from it, which of course we're talking about in a minute, but you gotta sit in it for a little bit, and just kind of feel it. I guess is the best way to say that.
That's it. You've got to experience it. You've got to sit. And I think that's something, this is another one of those lessons that came out of that conversation, that we as humans we are not good at experiencing sorrow. Right?
Yeah,
it's not
it's
something.
Hard. It's uncomfortable.
It's really hard. It's uncomfortable to do it, but learning how to do it goes a long way to being able to find that light again at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Well, and I know in the situation that I'm specifically thinking about on my own experience is that after I got past the anger of what happened, I was able to really sit back and think, okay, what did I learn in this situation? What am I going to take away from the situation? And what are you going to do different? And I think that's when it starts going from a negative into a positive. And it's kind of going back to when we've talked about failure before. Don't look at your failures as bad. Don't look at them as, you shouldn't try again, or look at it as what can you do different? What was the lesson there? And I think that happens, it's the same here. If you're dealing with a negative person or a negative situation in your life, that, there's always a lesson to be learned. And I also think it's important that we take the responsibility that we need to take with what happened. It's really quick. I mean, especially when you're angry, it's easy to blame the other person and think you're completely right. And I know that what I said is I want somebody to tell me I'm right, but I know logically I was also wrong. Like it goes both ways. There's two sides to the story. So if you can kind of go back and think, okay, where was my responsibility? And that's where you really, I think, learn and grow as a person.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
With that, then there's got to be some acceptance of what it is. And I need this for my own anxiety level, is I have to let it go. I have to just accept that this happened. This is who they are, whatever it is, and be able to move on and not keep thinking about it. And really consciously, if I start thinking about it, especially like in the middle of the night and I'm tossing and turning, I have to make that choice of, nope, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to spend another 15 minutes wasting my time stewing on something that I have absolutely no control over.
Right.
But you have to get to a place where you can, again, I think, be aware that that's what's happening and to be able to make a choice for yourself that you're going to do something different.
It's funny. There's a twist on that. I just heard a friend of mine posted on Facebook. It was a quote that she had heard attributed to Katie Poppy, who owns Little Big Burger and Blue Star Donuts and other PDX kind of restaurants. And she was talking about, lessons learned from her own failure and success. And her lesson was, let go of what you suck at.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that such on Facebook. Yeah.
It's such a good quote. And it hit me in this context. I know that's not what she was talking about, but it hit me in this context. So often the anxiety that comes, that I cultivate in myself, right? It comes when I have said yes to something that I suck at. But either I haven't realized or said out loud, I really suck at this. I suck at this, and I'm going to create anxiety because I'm not going to deliver it well. I'm not going to do it well. I'm not going to do it on time. It's going to be slow. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be not what I would like to create, when I know there are things that I really, really am good at. And so letting go of what you suck at, I think, goes a long way to let go of that feeling of darkness when you just have to move on. You just have to move on to something great.
Well, and I think that one of the questions you can ask yourself is what is it going to take for you to move on? And I think that it's important that we think about that we take some time to think about that.
Right.
Like, what do I need to do to put closure on this? I don't know why this is coming up for me, but I had a client one time who, needed to put closure to something, and it happened a long time ago, but they knew the steps that they had to take to make that happen for them. And so, depending on if it's a negative person, do they need to still be in your life? Maybe that means the closure is I have to stay away from this person if they're bringing me down. Or if it's a negative situation, how do I make sure that I'm not in this situation again? And you know what I mean? It's like, how do you bring closure? And depending on the situation, it's gonna certainly vary.
It is what is dragging you down. It's like the remora on the belly of a shark, right? At some point, you just want to shake it off.
Yeah. Oh, like the Taylor Swift song. Shake it off.
Oh, God. I'm never going to get that out of my head.
Sorry. Now, I had a quote that I actually
is it a Taylor Swift quote?
To me. No. I don't know who this person is. Maybe you do. But I saw it on Facebook too. I think it was on Facebook or something, some social media, where it says, nothing ever goes away until it teaches us what we need to know. And it is a Pema Chodron.
Pema Chodron.
You know who that is?
Well, it's a Buddhist.
It is.
The Buddhist.
Well, of course.
Yeah,
that's why I was drawn to it.
Yeah, she's a nun and a Buddhist, and she's
she's a wise person.
A wise teacher.
Yes, a wise teacher. Yeah, because I saw that quote after I had kind of put the show notes together, and I thought, wow, well, that's speaking to me. Nothing ever goes away until it teaches us what we need to know. Isn't that the truth?
That is the
so
truth.
if it hasn't, I mean, the way I take that is if it hasn't gone away from me, then what do I still need to learn here? What do I still need to let go of or process or, whatever. But
Boy, that's, yeah.
I pay attention to that stuff, when it comes my way, and, you got to pay attention. So
Yes. Yeah, those feelings, and it's not just what's in the face, but the face of you, like the immediate, like, present challenge, but the gut feelings too. It's like this is a feeling of anxiety that is coming from something in my life that I don't understand, but it's making me feel bad. I need to figure out. Like, that's often the biggest challenge that I have is trying to suss out what it is that's making me feel crummy, that I'm allowing to create this feeling of anxiety in my gut. Mm-hmm. When I can't really I've got so much going on, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something in the back of my mind that's not letting me feel right and whole and at peace. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's a great quote.
There you go.
That's it.
So we're done talking about this negative situation.
We're going to move on to some good stuff.
We're moving on.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, until then, make sure, check us out. You can subscribe for free on iTunes. Just search for Taking Control and the ADHD podcast. You can subscribe for free. And you know what? We still appreciate those kind reviews and ratings. Thank you so much for everybody who's written in. If you haven't yet, definitely drop us a line and let's hear your story. I think that's all we have to say.
I think so.
All right. Hey,
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Pete Wright. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, we'll catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.